Hello and welcome to Hekima Council's Makala podcast channel. My name is Amanda Masondo and I'm your host. We hope this podcast finds a way to impact, educate, and inspire your next. Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to Makala podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Masondo. My guest today is Terence Leluma. He is the CEO and founder of Makhamisa Foods. He's going to be talking us through his journey and all the experience that he has running his small business. Welcome, Terence.
Thank you, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to start this chat. I'm starting to think that I'm introducing a lot of my favorite brands to this podcast, but that's not neither here nor there. First things first, Makhamisa Foods. Talk us through that journey. How did that begin?
Makhamisa Foods, right? Makhamisa Foods is a story of love. I met this beautiful lady. Her name is Phumzile Ngomo. Back in 2012, on the 21st of July, at one of the businesses that I used to own. It was a pub. She came in as a patron, visiting there, accompanied by a sister. And we have since engaged, beyond that, we're dating. I'm a good cook. I invited her to my place. After enjoying my food, she said, I see you like cooking, and then my father operates like this as well. I'd like to introduce you to my dad, who makes this awesome relish. Fast forward 2 years later, don't ask me why 2 years later. 2 years later, I got introduced to him. He prepared beautiful meal, traditional meal, pap, braai meat, wors, steak, chops, drumsticks, and all of that. This relish was on the traditional tray called istebe. You'll be familiar with it. Yeah. And I enjoyed myself. And I thought on that day, maybe this is Korobela that she invited me for.
Strategy.
Absolutely.
Taking notes.
I was hooked from day one, and we started talking about the possibilities of commercializing the product.
Is this with your now father-in-law?
Absolutely.
Okay.
He's not my father-in-law.
It's your father.
He's my father.
Gotcha.
My father is late, so I've got only one surviving father. That's him. And I'm very close to the man. And I'm enjoying myself. And the relationship you're having since then is awesome. So that's how we started. And beyond that engagement, we then took it to the next level by putting together a program of piloting, the possibility of, this is your typical market research, small scale. We bought the ingredients, crafted new recipe, because I believed that the process he was following was not going to be consistent with what I had in mind. So we had to recraft the recipe, put a little bit of science behind it, because bigger fire engine. Yeah, we put in a lot of effort, obviously with the support of my wife. She was my girlfriend then. So I got the recipe and the girl.
Okay, so you got the recipe, but she was still just a girlfriend.
Yes.
Winner, you had a good thing going there for you.
Yeah, I think the old man realized that, at first glance, he saw that it was genuine. I sold myself very well. And here we are today. We are married and still having fun together. Yes.
Sounds like sales and marketing will get there. Already going ahead of speed there. That's great. First of all, shout out to Ms. Phumzile. Noted, we have recognized your skills and we'll be taking down notes. So it's a family business.
It is a family business, and it will remain the family business for some time until we decide otherwise.
Yeah. So would you say there are some specific or notable differences between running a family-owned business versus just your ordinary, this is my baby, as an individual entrepreneur and you're running it from scratch? What are some of the bottlenecks, if any, that exist there, or perks that exist?
Look, running a family business versus just a gig that you may have with your buddies, whatever, I think it goes beyond the purpose is deeper because it's taking the family with you. It's taking or driving a family dream into the unforeseen future, and then the understanding is there from day one that should this be a success, there are a lot of people that are going to benefit, and these are the people you love that are going to benefit from this, not only monetarily but through experience, through everything that they always wanted to experience. This could be a platform that they will utilize to become whatever they want to become. Yes.
Okay. So then maybe take us through Makhamisa's product offering. What does that include exactly? Is it just the relish and some of the flavors? Talk us through what is inclusive in your product.
We are a condiment manufacturing outfit. So we started with our relish. We went beyond that. We do mayonnaise based products, egg free and egg based mayonnaise. We do dressings. We make bastings. We make barbecue sauces. We make mustard sauces. Tomato sauces. In a nutshell, we are a wet condiment manufacturing company, mainly for third parties. We contract manufacture for big brands in the main because how we positioned ourselves, we've got a very effective asset, modern technology infrastructure that we have, the pots that we have, the processors, the packers, and all of that. So we positioned ourselves as a contract manufacturer in the main, and in future, beyond 5 years from now, we will be much more of concentrating of building a very strong brand equity. So that's how we're approaching the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk us through some of the ingredients and the sourcing of the ingredients. Is that something that you have mastered? How are you navigating that space, or have there been some difficulties with regards to where you get your produce?
Obviously, South Africa is a very complex market and a country, and you cannot separate politics with business. You can't. Access to raw materials remain a challenge, particularly when you are a black entrepreneur. In terms of cost, you're not going to get a specific material at a price that Kobas would get the same material, mainly because because of maybe your outlook, your African risk, So it's quite challenging, but we're navigating through the waves, and then we're still here 6-7 years later. We don't give up in terms of negotiating those prices with our suppliers. And Sis Pumzile, we call her Sis Pumzile. She's actually responsible for that portfolio at our business at Makhamisa.
Nice. Yeah. So in terms of the recipe itself and just the brand and the IP that's involved in that, did you have to make sure that you secure that? Because, South Africa and other sectors in the market, you put a thing out, you need to make sure that you're the only person that can actually utilize this kind of thing. Is that something that you had to do?
Oh, yes. In every market that you'd like to maybe dominate, ultimately, obviously you've got to protect IP. And IP doesn't only sit in the recipe, it sits also in the processing. And the technology you then acquire and utilize to actually come up with the final product, like this relish you're seeing here. So we made sure that we carefully pack the IP, the intellectual property around the recipe, the blends of spices that combine together to get to a certain taste profile. Protect that, and the process itself it's also protected. So yeah, it's very key to.
And then is it an expensive exercise?
You just have to. Yes, it is one of those expensive exercises because you've got to get skilled people to actually help you to put together the documentation that talks to the legislation, because I've got to comply as well, while you make sure that you achieve what you want to achieve in terms of the taste profile. Beyond the taste profile, you then look at the trademarks. So this brand, as it is trademarked, and they've got to follow a certain process to protect yourself, so that the Pakistanis down the road won't actually mimic this. Can take them to task. Yeah.
All right. And then let's talk slightly about, so I know that Makhamisa is available, Checkers, and some other retailers. Talk us through navigating negotiations with retailers and what kind of journey that entailed, and whether or not you think SMMEs, it's a worthwhile avenue to explore, or maybe you think that we should have our own retailing space where we're able to sell for ourselves and sell to each other.
This is one of the exciting questions you've asked, since we started this conversation. The retail space is highly complex. And I wish that the consumer, with their awareness and consciousness, could actually take their time to look at the shelves and say, these shelves are packed like this because of us. They are packed for us because of us. The journey we took to actually become one of the vendors with Pick n Pay, both Pick n Pay, the likes of ShopRite, was a tedious one, very painful because of their requirements and all of that. Ultimately, we made it, but it doesn't stop there. When you get onto the shelves, it's an organized system whereby it's a buddy-buddy type of setup. In order for you to make it, someone has got to protect you, who's a big brother, to say, don't move. In certain instances, in other stores, you walk in, you find our own relish is actually pushed, actually positioned at the back. Then there's another brand, reputable brand, that is put in the front, in front of the consumer's eyes. So those are the challenges that we come across. So you need money to actually fight that battle. Nothing else but money. So if you talk about a person in Terence who comes from a very poor background, who never inherited any cent from their parents, because the parents themselves are poor, how do you then fight that war? How do you fight that? How do you fight that war? Because you have tasted our brand. Our relish before. It's delicious.
Fantastic.
However, I believe, Amanda, that we can only make it because we are authentically African, authentically Black, and we outsource our raw materials here. We manufacture here in South Africa, in Edenvale to be specific. You've got brands that are quite successful out there. They get manufactured outside the country. China, jobs are sitting in China, in Bangladesh, and other countries, and then the final product comes to South Africa, and then you see Black people being excited, and that talks to the awareness I'm talking about, awareness and consciousness, to say, if I'm tired to be surrounded by poor relatives, because I carry the responsibility to take them out of poverty, I've got to create jobs for them.
Yeah.
Therefore, I've got to manufacture here. I've got to set up my business here and manufacture here and pay my taxes here. You understand?
Yeah.
So that says my brothers and sisters have got to take full responsibility and ownership of saying, we are supporting Makhamisa now as a revolution. Not only Makhamisa, but any brand that is manufactured here and owned by Black people, they will actually support it. Whether it's perfect or not, we'll perfect it as you go together with the consumer.
Yeah.
Because you're actually buying future jobs. You're actually buying future equity for your children. And if you buy Black, it's consciousness.
Sure. I like that. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
I wanted to touch on your personal journey.
Okay.
Right? The man behind Makhamisa, your journey, and how that has impacted how you maneuver around entrepreneurship. Who is Terence?
Okay. Terence is this tiny black man born in Soweto, Mzimhlope, in 1981, in March the 16th. At the age of 3, moved to Lesotho after his father got married. Grew up in Lesotho, did his primary there, high schooling, and then moved to varsity, University of Lesotho to be specific. I enrolled for biology and chemistry, hence my ability to have crafted the new recipe after the old man, has been mixing randomly.
With touch.
Yes, yes, yeah, with heart, yeah. So yeah, I couldn't even complete my BSc in biology and chemistry because of financial constraints. Beyond that, I decided to come back to South Africa and look for a job. In 2005, May, I joined the Standard Bank of South Africa as a financial planner. In my second year, after training as a financial planner with the University of Stellenbosch, I then became one of the top performers in Gauteng. And it was around that time, that around 26 to 2006-7, that Standard Bank saw the potential in me as a leader. Then they enrolled me as the only financial planner in Gauteng at the time. They combined me with the retail employees or staff members for a leadership program. Okay. That's when I met, I'm going to talk about him. I met the legendary Lincoln Mali. He writes books. He's associated with the Henley University Business School down the road. He's one of the leaders that I looked up to. And today, I'm the person I am because of his inspiration, Lincoln Mali. Beyond Standard Bank, I joined FNB as a financial planner for about 2 years. So combined in the industry, in the financial sector, I spent about 6-7 years. And then from there, I've decided that I am not an employee anymore. I'm not an employee material. I am my own boss from today. As to what the future held for me at the time, I did not know. I just believed in myself that I will make it somehow because of the character that I am, the person I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
And do you remember a specific moment, incident that sort of solidified your entrepreneurial journey? What was it that said you actually have to leave? What was it that?
I think it's the feedback from the clients that I used to service, at Standard Bank, both at Standard Bank and FNB. They've been giving me feedback that, dude, you're so good in what you do and you're making a lot of money for the banks. We believe that if you were to start your own gig, you'll be successful using the mechanisms that you're applying here at the bank. And I said, okay, I'll try it. And my first business was the garden services, and I was successful for about 3-4 years. And then I graduated to something else, which was the maintenance of baby incubators for the Gauteng Department of Health. I did the entire province, and other electronics that used to be utilized, still utilized even today within the health sector, hospitals and clinics. After that, I started another business, Calden Crossing. We did electrical maintenance work at Eskom and at Rainwater. Yeah. So I've been.
Those were the moments
Absolutely.
that navigated you to into.
Yeah. And then in parallel to that, during the time that I was running Cullinan Crossing, doing electrical maintenance, whatever, I then set up together with Makosini Harudi, you call him Kosi. We set up a business called Wamza Lounge. So it was a lounge combined with salon. So I used to serve food. That's where I met my beautiful lady, who's my wife today.
So it's all connected.
It's all connected.
So then there's a new baby, MTM Energy. What are we talking about?
MTM Energy. MTM Energy was started in 2017, a year after Makhamisa, because I always had this passion for renewable energy. Although I'm not even your electrical engineer or whatever, neither mechanical engineer, I've got this passion for sustainable environment. And I started to, through the material that I consumed, I foresaw the problem that you're having today, load shedding. This was in 2009 when I started consuming material around renewables, solar, biogas, biomass as well, waste to energy, and all of that, hydro, nuclear. So it was just out of passion that I said one day I'll run a renewable energy company. So MTM Energy specifically focus on solar power, as well as gas to power. We decided to focus on those two. We do collaborate in other technologies such as hydro. For now, we're focusing on solar to power and gas to power. We are developing a a project within the so-called the Val SEZ. This is within Gauteng, specifically within the Mid-Val municipality, whereby we decided to design a so-called agrivoltaics setup. So agrivoltaics, it's agriculture that is farming that is combined with power generation for own consumption and surplus. We're planning to sell it to the municipality and other private residents that will be within the Valley CZ. And then about 10 kilometers away from the site, because the first site where we're going to set up the agrivoltaics is actually next to the so-called City Bane breweries, alongside the R59 towards Vereeniging. Not far from the industrial facility called Samanco in Midval, in the Midval in Meerton. We're going to set up a gas to power plant, 250 megawatts, using Sasol gas from Mozambique. The other gas will be coming from Durban. So we're busy negotiating with the stakeholders for term sheets for gas and other variables that we're going to consume to make sure that we create a success. We are targeting to go online in 2026. The construction will start in 2025. And then at the end of 2026, in the third term, we'll be commissioning and going online.
Sure.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so that's the space I'm in. Both projects, these are two separate projects, right? Both projects, in terms of the magnitude, when you go out, because we are at feasibility stage now, working with different partners together with the CSIR as well. The CSIR is part of our team in this project. We are looking at around 4.5 billion rand that we'll be raising to implement these two projects.
Sure. So two completely different businesses.
Two different businesses. So the plan, yes, absolutely. The plan is to set up the so-called SPVs. So MTM is actually developing these two projects. And then when we get to financial close, we will then set up two entities that are going to have, that are going to be autonomous to each other, different boards, different ownership, different shareholders, and all of that.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's where this thing is going. We're targeting to sign a minimum of 20 PPAs, power purchase agreement, with the off-takers. Yes. And we've started engaging them.
Nice. We look forward to it. Watching the space. I wanted to say Makhamisa and MTM Energy. They are completely different entities in themselves as well.
totally different.
What would you say are some of the clear differences in starting Makhamisa versus the energy group, or some of the similarities as well?
As an entrepreneur, my job is to solve social problems. Food is one of the social challenges that we have, food security. We have taken Soweto as an example. We've got 50% of the Soweto population that go to bed hungry almost every day. 50%. So it is I have taken it upon myself to make sure that I participate in the food security kind of like regime. You understand? To make sure that this country and the rest of the continent, because we've got 60% of arable land in the continent that is lying fallow, that we can actually add value to it and produce food that can actually address this issue of hunger and starvation across the continent. Secondly, energy starvation. Africa is dark, yet we've got all the resources.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, I'm going to be one of the pioneers on the food solution side of things and on the energy solution side of things. And I think my third and last one will be water solution. Then I'll be done. It's food, energy, and water, because we are moving into the era of water scarcity.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Already seeing it, already feeling it.
You haven't seen anything. It's going to be worse. Absolutely.
So then let's talk about entrepreneurship as a whole. When we consider all the headwinds that are affecting entrepreneurs at the moment, businesses as a whole, actually, whether it's electricity, whether it's water strategy, shortages, all those things combined, how would you describe the state of entrepreneurship at the moment?
South Africa is a country, I don't think we have got rich entrepreneurial culture. We're not there. I mean, countries such as your Rwanda, your Kenya, Ethiopia. That's why I've got many of them here in South Africa. We're still living in the past, in the dream that was promised to us that when we finally become free, then everything is going to come to us. And it never happens anywhere in the world that things will come to you. You go out and look for your treasure. And entrepreneurship, I believe, is one of the solutions that can address unemployment. And our government, this time I want to touch a bit about, the government, that the government of South Africa should heavily, they've got to reduce 350s. Honestly, in the grants, because when you give someone fish instead of teaching them how to fish, you're not going to be sustainable, because on the tax side of things, you're actually eating into your potential tax, you understand, or tax base. So create an environment that you're able to then increase the level of entrepreneurship so that the small businesses can start paying tax when they get to the certain threshold. In fact, it is my belief and proposal that any business that is turning maybe say 5 million should actually be tax free, should not be subjected to tax, so that you generate as many SMEs as possible. And those that will graduate will then start to pay tax. And then in that manner, if you do your algorithms, the more you get this SMEs graduating, the more you're going to have more tax collection. Look at it. So we have got to really encourage our communities, our brothers and sisters, cousins, neighbors, to participate in entrepreneurship, and government should actually make the environment fertile for them to participate in the mainstream economy. All right, we've got to develop new institutions that will teach our children entrepreneurship, because they're not teaching us; they are teaching us lifestyle of a frog or locust. They're not teaching us real stuff that is going to really empower us, empower our children, because it is the very same education. Remember, children learn from us better than they learn, from school.
Books, yeah.
And from books. So the practice that we will be involved in will actually make them to be even better versions of us in future. And that's how, in 50 years, that's how China did it. In 50 years, Chinese children, they don't play with locusts. They play with real stuff. They do prototypes at primary level.
They're innovating. Yeah.
They're innovating. So we have got to teach these children even the relationship between darkness and light, because that is another breakthrough that we can get. It will raise awareness that there's nothing wrong with darkness, because darkness, actually, you wouldn't see the light outside darkness. And the opposite is true. You wouldn't see darkness if there was no light. So once our children are at that stage, then they will absorb entrepreneurship, the culture of an entrepreneurship. It's my belief. It's not a fact. It is my belief that when they are not fearful, they can risk, they can take risks. And in actual fact, when they are young, they take risks. We teach them not to take risks as they grow up, which is one of the biggest mistakes we do.
Gotcha. Facts. I wanted to talk about barriers to entry, right? Whether it's at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, or if it's just while you're trying to upscale your business. What would you say are still things that shouldn't be affecting entrepreneurs to date, but they are?
The first one is I believe there's enough money in this country for entrepreneurs to access markets. But access to that money is a challenge. Access to the shelves is another challenge. And the solutions to these two key challenges that I actually keep on experiencing even today after 7 years of entrepreneurship is that we need to build our own markets. We need to set up our own retails, because the rules that are set up, they're actually set up to prohibit us from entering the real market. And who's the market? We are the market. So what's missing here is setting up our own supermarkets at our own, and put our own terms there that are going to be accommodative to our own sisters and brothers. And that's how we're going to liberate ourselves. And we have got to use the state, by the way, state resources to set up, because they used state resources. They are telling us not to use state resources. Today, it's looting, it's what. Yes, I'm not promoting corruption, but I'm saying the black child will never be free economically if we don't utilize the state machinery to set up a sustainable platform for us to be able, a baseline. We need that baseline. And only the state will be able to help us in achieving that.
Sure. Let's also talk about the pandemic, right?
Yes.
We always talk about the damage that it caused, but there's some opportunities that it brought, right? A lot of businesses were able to upscale by utilizing the digital economy to access the market. Talk us through some of the things that you had to navigate in that period, and how did you guys survive and get it to the other side?
Initially, we got affected heavily, got hit hard by the pandemic, because our main channel was the QSR, quick service restaurants, your Steers, Debonairs, and others. So you remember what happened.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So we are actually prohibited or prevented, from going out, dining outside our homes due to national lockdown. So we're not producing, and we had bills to pay, salaries to pay, and that actually set us back in a big way. However, on the flip side of things, when things started to open up, we realized that people were eating more because they were chilled at home, and we started producing more sources rather, and figures started to pick up. We started seeing revenues climbing, and that was the positive for us. Again, I think honestly, as a country, and I'm talking now to the entrepreneur, The experience, if anyone can survive the pandemic such as COVID-19, you can survive anything. And I'm talking from experience. We survived COVID. That's why our doors are still open today. And I said to my team, if we manage to make it through the pandemic and then survived, we can survive any storm. That's what I actually said to the team, and that's the attitude, because there were many challenges. The distribution channels were actually tight because of regulations. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. You can't get closer to a person by number of centimeters or even a meter or so. Yeah. So we managed to survive, and we'll survive any other storm.
Heavy agility.
I'm telling you, we'll survive any other storm. And again, the element of fear. We were so scared. We thought like this pandemic. I mean, it hit us hardly a month after commissioning the plant. Without no revenue, it actually caught us without any sales whatsoever. Here we are. We survived. And again, I thank the Lord for blessing me with prudent negotiation skills. I engaged together with my team that I'm privileged to lead. Even today, we engaged our stakeholders to find a common understanding of the common challenge that was brought by the common challenge, which was the pandemic. And in that process, I think we managed to evolve together with those stakeholders in terms of trust, because we kept our word. We said, we're not going to be able to pay you this month or next month, but when we have money, we'll pay you. And indeed, we managed to pay them, and then they trust us more. And
you kept your word.
That's one thing that I want to talk about. In business, if you are a man of your word, you are 50% there. Keep your word, because it's a network, and the more you actually grow as a business, as a brand, the more people are going to talk about you, the more people are going to know you. So be consistent in what you do, in what you say, and then you'll build a sustainable reputation that will actually benefit you in your long run. Keep your word.
You kept your word that you would be here today, and you were here.
Yeah, I'm here, right?
And now Africa is going to know who you are. All these things.
Yeah.
I see what you're doing here. All right. As we get to the tail end of our conversation, do you have 3 nuggets, if you have more, that you could maybe pass on to entrepreneurs who are either in a rut of not knowing how to get through certain hurdles, or who just want to start, who want the nuggets and enthusiasm for them to just start their next? What would those nuggets be?
Follow your passion. Do not do it for money or to impress anyone. Just do what you love, and the rewards will come after. Number 2, be authentic. Be authentic. Do not try to be someone else. I remember at some point, a friend of mine sitting in Switzerland, in Zurich, introduced me to Patrice Motsepe about 5 years ago or so. And then when I met him, I said, "Can you please be my mentor?" And he rejected that request. He said, "You can still make it. After this conversation, you can still make it without me being your mentor. Just believe in yourself." And after that, I started to believe in myself strongly, and then I started seeing things happening. So just believe in yourself, and don't ever aim to be perfect. The environment will shape things up for you, for as long as your intention is pure.
Nice. So then what's next? Are we going international? What's going on? What are the plans?
Okay, as I said, we are, in terms of Makhamisa, we are going through a transition now. There's equity investment participation that we're busy with. There's equity deal that we're busy with. Our biggest funder, the IDC, is involved also in the deal. The aim is to conquer Africa, because markets are starting to consolidate, as you can see through the AFCFTA, African Continent Free Trade Area. we want to take advantage of this consolidated market that is worth 3.2 trillion. It's estimated to be worth 3.2 trillion by 2030, and 2030 is around the corner, is in 7 years. So you prepare now to benefit for what's going to happen in the next 5 to 7 years. So that's what we are busy with. We're showcased in America in the past week. There are several requests to actually supply them with our products in the US. So we're working on that as well. But the focus is in the continent because Africa is rich. We just have to shape it up. And then if we're not going to craft African solution for ourselves, then I would have failed. We would have failed as the children of the soil. And then in terms of MTM, yes, as I told you, the SCZ projects are ongoing, and it's exciting because we are highly likely to be the first to implement the agrivoltaics plant in South Africa. It's the existing technology in the world, in Spain, to be specific. That's what we are busy with in the next 2 to 3 years. Beyond that, we will be looking at the possibility of floating solar, targeting in the main the Val Dam. We actually did a basic assessment. We can generate, can set up actually up to 1 gigawatt of solar power plant on the surface of water, while making sure that we conserve water by reducing evaporation. We are targeting a figure of around 12% evaporation reduction to conserve water. As I said, water is going to be one of
big crisis.
In the near future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Makhamisa Foods.
Thank you.